Okay, I think we've got it now. So quad 4, like I said, on yours it'll probably be plain quad or quad 3. Enter, enter. Okay, and just hit enter until you see this top number 1, the question, what do you know? Again, you won't see all of this. You'll see number 1 and number 4. So don't worry about the rest of this stuff. But what we want is number 1, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we choose that one. And now it's saying enter a. So on the one that we were just doing, remember down here, a was 2, b is -1, and c is -3. So we just put the numbers. So 2, enter, -1, enter, and -3, enter. Okay, so if it was a nice problem, a nice quadratic, x equal 3/2 and -1, these are the two solutions. You can see down here for the problem, x equal 3/2 -1. It lets us bypass factoring by hand, or if it was one that did not factor, doing the quadratic formula by hand. Now, there will be some places later on where we actually need to factor some stuff, and if you're not good at factoring, you can use this the same way and then look right here to see the factored form. But for the solutions or the zeros, you are grabbing these numbers. Now, also notice it says press enter when finished. Okay, and that takes you back up to this little menu. Number 1 would be another quad. Number 2 would be if you need to change some like square root answer into a decimal. 7 is actually to exit. So let's do this bottom one that was over here, back on that example, where it said solve 3x squared plus 2x equals 7. But then it said find the exact solutions and approximate to 3 decimal places. So again, the first thing on this one we need to do is get the 7 over on the left side. So we subtract 7 from both sides. Now I've got my quadratic, which means I can use quad 3. My a is 3, b is 2, c is -7. Okay, and so over on our calculator, let me get that in my head again, 3, 2, -7. Okay, so I'm just going to tell it to run another one, so I pick number 1. What do I know? Number 1, a is 3, my poor little memory, so short, 3, 2 for B, enter, and -7. Now, before I hit enter, the answers are not always pretty answers. Think about when you use quadratic formula back in Algebra 2. A lot of them turned out like 5 plus or minus the square root of blah, 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 all over some number. And that's what's going to happen here. So at first it says, okay, your answer is going to be one of these ugly ones, and that's just the quadratic formula there. This is just the little symbol, the best way to type it on the calculator for the guy that programmed it. This is just standing for plus or minus. This is your big fraction bar over 2a. And then by the time you get down here, it says press enter. So it's already figured it out and it's ready with an answer. So we press enter. And so we get -1 plus or minus the square root of 22 all over 3. So look down here. You know, this is what we would call the exact solutions, what we just saw in there, -1 plus or minus the square root of 22 over 3. And what that means, the plus or minus just stands for one of them adding the square root of 22 and then dividing by 3. The other is -1 minus the square root of 22 over 3. Okay, so we got the exact solutions. Now we want to approximate solutions rounded to 3 decimal places. Well, again, if you're using quad 3, okay, it says press enter when finished. And we go back to the menu, and number 2 says decimal. So if we pick number 2, it's going to actually work those out for us, give us these decimals, and then we can round them off to the 3 places. And after you were finished, after you had that written down, you'd press enter to go back over here. If you were totally finished with quad 3 and needed to do something else on the calculator, you'd choose 7 and you'd hit enter one more time to make it say done. Now, again, depending, yours might say the word done immediately. And if you do not want to press enter again, because it will throw you back into the program. So I always suggest hitting clear, just an extra. So enter if you don't see the word done, and then press the word clear as soon as you see the word done. And that way it's less likely that you accidentally get thrown back in. So that was that. Thanks, hope it helps.